So this is the 19th iteration of this conference, the West Coast Fellows Conference. As you can see from the logos there, we continue to grow. Before I turn it over to Dr. Kanter and Greg to give them an intro, I just wanted to put in a plug for the Bridging the Gap conference. It's coming up here at the end of July. It's in beautiful Carlsbad. We have Serena Hu speaking, and it's an awesome meeting. It's a ton of fun, very different than traditional sort of more academic meetings. It's more conversational and debate oriented and definitely a lot of fun. So if you have any questions or want to get info about how to register or how to come, or if you're a fellow and you need funding or something, just reach out to Greg or I, and we can give you all that information. Today, we're thrilled to have Dr. Kanter. Greg knows him quite a bit better. So Greg, if you wouldn't mind, why don't you do the introduction and then we'll turn it over to you, Dr. Kanter.
Sure thing. Sure. So pleasure on my part to introduce Adam. Adam's been a dear friend of mine for what seems like a long time now, since probably 10, 15 years. And started out at the University of Pittsburgh, where he worked alongside his partner, David Okonkwo, for a long time. The two of them were very much a dynamic duo that took the academic world on the neurosurgery side, and I would say ultimately on the orthopedic side by storm, with their work that they do together and also individually, obviously. But they made a great name for themselves in the world of minimally invasive spine surgery and various other aspects of spine surgery. But probably the one thing that distinguishes Adam from the rest is just his personality and his genuineness. If you know Adam at all, he leaves it all out there. He's an amazing human being, gives all he has to his family and his work. And you can see how that translates over into his personal relationships. And when you talk with Adam, you never feel like he's distracted. You always feel like he's present, he's there, and is on your side. So his friendship's been very meaningful to me. And I'm so happy that you're here closer by now. He recently moved out of Hogue, had a lot of life changes, left a very solid job in Pittsburgh to come to California, Southern California, which we're excited about. And then recently has ventured into the world of getting a business degree and likely going to be taking more of an administrative role. And I applaud you for taking that huge leap, Adam, and bringing your family out. We're so blessed to have you in Southern California. And probably the last thing I'm going to say is that the greatest asset that he has is actually that he's a Patriots fan. So with that being said, Adam, thank you.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Dr. Kanter, you should be able to share yours. Thank you so much.
Sure thing. All right, Greg, thank you so much. That's boy, I should have had you introduce me out of the spine side. I'm teasing, but I really appreciate you guys having me here, and this is exciting. This is the West Coast Fellows Conference. I'm a West Coaster now. As you mentioned, I recently traveled through, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit today. I don't want to waste too much time with the intros, but I want to talk to you a little bit today about my journey. Typically, Greg and I actually met many years ago, right? Probably 15, 16 years ago at a SOLAS meeting, when we were talking about things like this, looking at deformity and how we could make pretty dramatic changes through pretty small holes. And this is what I've kind of been known for and really doing a lot of with research and clinically on podiums and really talking about lateral access surgery and combining that with David Okonkwo, my partner back at Pitt for many years. And this is typically what I would often talk about. However, this is kind of my initial journey. We all have chapters in life, right? We all start making our way through, and we come up with other chapters that are very meaningful to us. And I just want to give you a little bit more about the chapter that I'm excited about, my next chapter. And I'll give you a tiny little bit of history. I was trained at the University of Virginia. I don't know. I was trying to look through the group here and see if any other UVAers were on. But I trained at the University of Virginia, and then I did my fellowship at UCSF. And then I ended up at Pitt as the chief of spine for 15 years. And you can see these are three highly prolific academic programs, right? They've certainly evolved and changed over time, but generally speaking, they still are exceedingly academic. And I've had lots of opportunities, been involved in over 100 courses as director. I've been very fortunate to be involved in several societies where I was director of ISAS, and last year I was the president of ESMIS. And then I hope many of you were actually present for the Spine Summit this past March, which was kind of a culmination of a lot of what I've been trying to do in the societies. And then 15 years after starting at Pitt, I made a pretty significant change. I left the academic arena, so to speak, and yet now the world-renowned, right, Kanter comes to. I loved it when they printed this. When it comes to Hoag, comes to Southern California. There's a lot of reasons I did that, which is I'm happy to get into conversation with folks over a drink one night. But it was a pretty significant leap of faith. It really was. It was a significant leap of faith for me, leaving my comfort zone. And this is actually a Norman Rockwell painting, and it's in Steven Spielberg's office. And I bring it up because you see this boy. It's called Boy on a Diving Board. And Steven Spielberg said that every time he starts a new movie, every time he starts a new project, that he looks at this painting and he feels the knots in his stomach, and he's scared and he's anxious and he's thinking, boy, this is a big stray from what I've done in the past. And the lesson here for him and for me and for all of you as well is don't let a big change, don't let it scare you, don't let it prevent you from actually taking the risk, because that's when we really grow, is when you do take those risks. So I want to bring up Dr. Janes. So where I come from, as I said, the University of Virginia, this was Dr. Janes. So not only was I taking a big risk there, but I also grew up in a specific culture. And here's the culture. I'm going to give you a little taste of this. This is over 20 years ago. Dr. Janes sent this letter out to all living residents. So that's how he addressed all of us, to all living residents. Gentlemen, I'd like to know if anyone has plans on going into private practice. I would like to know so I can streamline it to make it a better experience for both you and the attendings. By that, I mean that the needs of the private practitioner are quite different from an academician. It used to be that everyone went into academics because a certain amount of shame was associated with private practice. That no longer seems to be the case, and I am unwilling to spend vast amounts of time turning out surgeons whose main motivation seems to be to provide their wives with expensive clothes, cars, and vacations, and contributing nothing to the future of neurosurgery. So this is the culture that I grew up in, thinking that there's only one way to go. It's academia or bust, right? So, and here I am 15 years later thinking, oh my goodness, what am I doing? What's going on with my life? But my journey, my experience, my life has changed dramatically. It's evolved. And with that, Dr. Jane trained us to be leaders. And I feel as I'm continuing on my leadership journey, and I do think he would be proud. And one thing to remember here is that we are all leaders. Every one of you, every physician, you don't have to be a physician either, but we can all be leaders, right? You be leader by starting to lead. You don't actually have to have a position or a title or a role that says you're a leader. You start to lead. And we'll talk about some areas of where it is that we're leaders, whether it's in the operating room, in our our clinics, in our divisions or societies. We're all leaders. So, and as Greg, you may have heard, I've now started my MBA. I'm a year into it. It's a 2-year program at UCLA at the School of Anderson. And I'd like to share with you some bits of advice that I've received while on this latest journey, right? Going through business school. And here I am, 50 years old, I'm a student again. So this is a pretty scary, anxiety-provoking experience because I've been a professor, right? I've been the one that's teaching, and now I'm on the other side of the desk. And on the one hand, it's scary. On the other side, it's absolutely invigorating. And I'm so excited that I've done it. These are my classmates. And one thing I will tell you, these folks are from Disney, Google, Microsoft, SpaceX. They're entrepreneurs. They're U.S. Marine Corps. They own their own businesses. They have multi-million-dollar companies. Never have I been before surrounded by a more unique group of individuals. This is truly where I learned the value in diversity. And I know that's a big word these days, but I'm not talking about race or gender or sexual identity. I'm talking about diversity in trade, in perspective and experience. I am surrounded with a cohort of people that think differently. They solve problems differently, not by standards of care or guidelines or treatment algorithms, but by creative group thought. and it's purposefully performed in teams. And one of the books that I've been reading while going through this is Good to Great. I'm not sure if you guys have read. I strongly recommend it, by Jim Collins. And in this book, he reviews 1,500 companies that had all been in the Fortune 500 list, and he uses criteria to determine which companies go from good to great. And in order to be good to great, you have to meet certain criteria, such as you have to beat the market by 3 times, and you have to do that for over 15 years. So you have to outlast any single executive or CEO. And out of 1,500 companies in the Fortune 500, only 11 companies met all the criteria. And one thing that all of these had in common is they all had what he called level 5 leaders. These are what are level 5 leaders? These are leaders that look in the window when they are looking to give credit. So when you look, when something great happens, you look to give credit, you look in the window and you assign that credit to who's on the other side. At the same time, they look in the mirror when they're looking to take responsibility. They never blame bad luck, or when things go poorly, it's never a blame of anyone else, it's all themselves. The greatest leaders give the credit for the win and they take the blame for the loss. So you need to decide as a leader when it is that you're going to be looking through the window and when you're going to be looking into the mirror. And this is just kind of something that I've been thinking a lot about. And as I consider what type of leader I want to be, something that's been really important to me. And I mentioned Dr. Jain, and I want to make sure I paint him in the appropriate detail, because he's a wonderful, incredible, amazing leader, an amazing, incredible leader. And, you know, he had a certain way that he did things, but that's why UVA became the institution that it did. And a lot of folks would ask him, how do you lead leaders? He would only hire people that he thought were going to become chairman, academic chairman himself, leaders in the field, leaders in medicine and neurosurgery. How do you do that? You know, and he had Chris Shaffery and he had Ed Laws, and so we had all these massive giants, and he would respond by saying, I create a vision, I have a team, I create trust within that team. And then most importantly is I then empower them. And then I get out of their way. And that is key. That is truly key for the true, sincere leaders, is that you provide that empowerment to those, and then you get out of their way. And if you can do that, then I feel that that you're going to be capable of being someone very special and affecting a lot of lives. And Dr. Jain always used to say is that, you know, you're ready to be a leader when your job is no longer about you. And I think there's a tremendous, he took tremendous pride in that. And that's across that. Here we are in business, right? When they, at the end of life, they asked Steve Jobs, what is it that you were most proud of building, of all these amazing things that you've done? What are you most proud of? And his response was, my team. That's what I'm most proud of. And I want to give you a little bit of information about how do you get the team working together. And that was one of the hard things folks would ask Dr. Jain as well, is how do you get all these folks, these amazing superstars working together, right? And it's oftentimes through a common purpose. And I like to tell stories that help me relay the message. I'm not sure how old folks are on the line here, but pre-1992 Olympics, the professional athletes couldn't actually play for the U.S. Olympic team and basketball team. Here you see in 1992, they changed that around. They got Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. I mean, these are the superstars, right? These are the amazing folks that created the dream team in 1992. And we all know what happened in 1992. And the average margin of victory when they took gold was by 42 points. Next year, right now, again, we've got some amazing, incredible athletes here. With Shaquille O'Neal, you can see in the back right. And this is 1996. And of course, gold again, average margin of victory this year was 30 points. So a little less, but they beat Yugoslavia in the finals by 26 points. The next year, right? Amazing, incredible superstars. You can look through and see the level of talent. Of course, gold once again, but look at this. So here we are 12 years in, and now they just barely win the semifinals. They won by 2 points, but big smiles, USA #1. They won the final, they won the gold by 10 points, right? Everybody remember the 2014. So we got a young LeBron James here, right? Steph Marbury, Allen Iverson, Tim Duncan. These guys are great. They don't look particularly happy for some reason, but this is before the Olympics even started. But after the Olympics, it was even a lot worse, right? I don't know if everybody remembers this here, but in 2004, the U.S. Olympic team went 5-3. They barely got a bronze medal. So what happened, right? What happened to the team that was winning, beating teams by 40 points? All of a sudden, now they're 5-3. They hired Mike Krzyzewski and they said, what the hell went wrong here? And he did a thorough analysis. The U.S. Olympic team said, we've got to fix this problem. Found we had these amazing, incredible, elite athletes, right? And each of them, though, these were superstars. The game had changed, right? It was no longer Larry Bird and Magic Johnson who had more passes than they did points. Now we've got these amazing superstars that are taking the game away on their own. They were all playing their own game on the court, but not together. They weren't playing as a team and they weren't playing with a purpose. So we had to fix that. That's what the plan was. In 2008, you see a lot of the same players, right? LeBron James there on the bottom left. And in 2008, he started figuring out, how is it that I can get these men to work together? And he started by taking them to the Statue of Liberty. And he brought them to the Statue of Liberty. He said, I want you guys to think about your ancestors, folks that came to America, the hardships that they endured, not for the opportunities you guys are looking for, but simply for their freedoms. And it's taken a long, long time, but that's who I want you guys playing for. I want you playing for your ancestors. I want you playing for them. There wasn't a dry eye on the boat. He then introduced them to the wounded warriors. And not only were they wounded warriors, military folks that were injured in line of duty, but they were being redeployed. So these are people that got injured and then were going back out to continue to fight for America, to represent America. And their response was, you get to represent America too. How are you going to do it? And they were reintroduced to the why of why it mattered to wear that jersey, to wear the jersey that said USA on it. He gave them back their purpose. And these guys played differently than any team before them. They played with purpose. They were not working for gold. They were working for America. And at the end, I don't know if you know this, of course, they took gold. And at the end, coaches don't actually get medals. I'm not sure if everybody knew that. The players all get the gold medals, but the coaches didn't. You can see LeBron James putting his medal on Coach Krzyzewski, knowing that he was the guy that brought them together, the guy that pulled this off. And then miraculously, they all did it. And that is the Olympic team. And then, of course, they had their purpose back. Team USA, 4 years later, they did it again. 4 years later, they did it again. 4 years later, they've done it again. So he set a new precedent. And the important thing, as in business, as in sports, as in anything, is that if you're working for something you really care about, you don't have to be pushed. It's the vision, it's the purpose that will pull you. And this is from the top elite athletes all the way to the bottom. This is another story. This is about so in the Empire State Building, this is really incredible. I don't know if folks know this. This was built back in 1930s to be the goal was to be the largest building with over 100 floors, the largest building ever. Construction started in March of 1930. It was done and they opened the doors 13 months later in May of 1931. I mean, I built a house that took over 2 years. To how this magnificent building was built in 1 year is absolutely amazing. But it was a miraculous feat. Everything about it was spectacular. And the mission in that building, from the executives to the managers to the cafeteria workers, was to leave everyone that walked into that building feeling like they just experienced something amazing and want to return for more. The purpose was instilled in every worker in that building. The leaders and the followers, they all had the same purpose, however, with different roles. And there was a documentary on the Empire State Building, and it showed these 5 guys that were cleaning the sub basements that were interviewed, and they had these palpable pride and smiles on their faces. And they said, when they were interviewed, they said, our job, like, why are you happy? What are you up to that you're so happy, Sarah? Our job is to ensure that when people from all over the world enter this building, it's going to shine, clean, and sparkle. And their job was to dispose of the trash. That was their job. But their purpose was the same as everyone else's. Sorry, that's my dog here. Their purpose was the same as everyone else's. And that is the point being, the onus is on us for every member of our team to know why it is that they're doing something, for us to have the same purpose, regardless of if you're the surgeon, at the table, or you're the guy with the mop cleaning up in between cases. It doesn't matter who you are. You have a purpose, and it is to take care of that patient. So if your purposes are the same, you're working towards the same goals. This is an interesting story. So Lincoln, actually, 16th president, when we think about our teammates, it's not always obvious who our teammates are. He actually hired his greatest adversaries and put them on his staff, on his presidential staff, so that he had folks around him. Not everybody was agreeing with him, that kept him honest, but that he had his greatest adversaries working with him and for him. And one thing you have to remember is that when you ask your adversaries for advice, and you help, and you know, they help get you to where you're going, they are invested in your success, right? So work with your orthopedic colleagues, with your pain docs, collaborate. The best way to get things done is working together. And I think that's why our political system is so screwed up now, is because we've got these just groups that want nothing to do with one another, so we can't get anything done. But the point is if you work together, you can get tremendous amounts done. I want to move a bit quick here. So I'm not going to talk a lot about Jack Clark, who was an incredible coach at Cal Rugby. He's got 24 national championships, but he had multiple incredible things to say about teams. But I'm going to talk about the last one here. When he's building his team, he'd go out there and he'd try and recruit some folks, right? And he would say that there's that one recruit you really, really want him. Now, remember, you only play that team, that, you know, other teams once a year. So he'd say, if I lost that recruit, you don't get that guy, that team could potentially beat you once a year. But if you get the wrong guy, if you get the wrong player, the wrong recruit, then that team's going to beat you every single time. And that's the point, is learning who it is that you want on your bus, on your team, and learning who it is that shouldn't be on your team. That's a big part of leadership as well. John Wood and I have a lot of sports analogies here, but it's amazing. When you start at UCLA, John Wooden was the most winningest, collegiate basketball coach, and they give you the John Wooden book on leadership and game success. And he starts off by teaching everyone how to put their socks on and how to tie their shoes. And he does that because he knows that back in the day when he was working on the farm behind Bessie pushing the plow, if he got a foil in his sock and a blister, and then he couldn't work, and then he couldn't eat because he couldn't get food, he knows that these little things add up to big things. And that's really important to understand, that little things matter. Little things matter. Same thing with Colin Powell, really important figure in American history. He was a U.S. officer in the Army. He became chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and then the first African-American Secretary of State. And son of Jamaican immigrants, born in Harlem, grew up in the Bronx, joined the ROTC, became a 4-star general and commander of the U.S. Armed Forces. So throughout his tenure, though, he noted the importance of the small things and how they can have large consequences. But the more senior he became, the more insulated he became from those small things occurring in the depths of the organization. This is similar to what happens with physicians. When we become more seniors, you lose touch with the workers, you lose touch with the soldiers as you take on these leadership positions. So he reduced this separation by randomly, unknowingly dropping in on these ground workers. He'd visit the maintenance shops, inspect the barracks, the foot lockers, and the most important he'd look at is the latrines, right? The bathrooms. Not to determine if they were clean, but to see if they were maintenance issues or supply shortages, if the mirrors were cracked, or stalls were without toilet paper. Then he knew that the unit was either short on funding or it was not being supervised or cared for properly. So it enabled Powell the opportunity to judge how the system was running at the bottom rung, even though he stood at the top rung. And there were several small things that were important to these troops, and Powell showed that they were important to him too. And this created that connection between him and all of these soldiers, is that he knew he could always count on them. So he also made it his goal to always take care of the soldiers as well. And this is just one of the many great leadership pearls to take away about Colin Powell, is you got to remember that you rely on every member of your team. Again, the group that comes in and mops that floor, that's your turnover, right? How many times we complain about turnover? If those people know you care about them, your turnover is going to be fast. It's going to be a lot faster than if you're just some random surgeon out there. So Nelson Mandela, there's a great story about Nelson, that he was on a prop plane, and the prop plane, one of the props actually stalled, and he was reading his newspaper, and he looked over and he saw that, and he told them to tell the pilot that one of the engines wasn't working. And a woman comes over and says, "Yeah, we understand that. We're actually going to be landing urgently, and they're putting foam on the thing, and everybody looked around. Everybody on the plane started getting frantic and worried, and they looked at Nelson Mandela, who just quietly grabbed his newspaper and started reading it again, looked back and gave everybody a nod and a smile, and everybody thought, okay, we must be okay. They must have told him we're going to be fine. And the point is that he maintained his leadership presence. When he got off the plane, he went over to the pilot and said, wow, that was scary. I was terrified. But nobody knew, because he kept his poise, he kept his presence, his leadership presence. And that's important for us all to remember, is that when you're operating and you have a vascular injury or CSF leak, stuff's, nerves are spewing out, how you react is how others in the room are then going to react. If you act crazy and chaotically, they're going to feel the same. And that's when things can get really out of hand. So it's okay to be afraid, but don't let it control you. Don't let it control your actions or influence you. Another quick, do I have time to keep going, or should I move this along, Annie?
No, please keep going. I think most of us can stay for a few extra minutes.
Okay, well, there's a CEO of a healthcare system that during the COVID-19 crisis, he actually would play the Rocky theme anytime someone had come in and they were admitted to the ICU upon their discharge. And what he was trying to do is remind everybody that in this terrible time of chaos and turmoil, this unfortunate, terrible situation in life, that there's still positive, there's still goodness happening in the world. We can still overcome this. And I thought that was really impressive. One thing I want to remind others as well is about valuing partnerships. Valuing, and when I say value, it's true value of those partnerships. There's a great story about Einstein when he joined Princeton back in 1930s, is that they told him to name his price to come and be a professor at Princeton. He thought about it, and he said, $3,000. I want $3,000 a year. And Princeton said, oh my goodness, we pay $10,000 to many of our faculty already. So $3,000, that's quite the bargain. But instead of saying, all right, we're going to get Einstein for $3,000, what they did is they took they gave him $13,000. Everybody else made 10. And they said, we want Einstein to be the most well-paid academician out there, so that he never has to worry, he never has to think for a moment that, am I in the right place? Could I potentially make more? He wasn't like that. That wasn't his thing. But anytime anyone else got a raise, they would always bump Einstein's pay up, making sure that he was always the most well-paid faculty. And the point here is that value people properly. There's no, if you get into a leadership position and you're advocating to bring someone in, don't try and how much can we get them for? What's the least amount that we can get them for, and then get them here? And then they're, again, still kind of looking around thinking, how can I potentially do better? Eliminate that thought. Go, we value you so much, and we're going to value not just the work RVU, we're going to value what else you provide to this institution. But that's a really important lesson that I took away from Einstein's story. And here's a funny one. Following from Einstein, when you have bright ideas, right? We all have these great ideas, these amazing ideas. And to us, your idea, bright idea is like a newborn baby, is you're so blinded by the amazing, I get this incredible idea and it sounds so perfect and clean and neat, that this is what you see. You see this amazing baby, but everyone else sees, right, what your baby really looks like. And again, this is a cute baby too. But the point being is that it's very difficult to see the flaws in your own, not a flaw, but to see the irregularities, right? Or what your own ideas truly look like. It's very easy to see the flaws in others' ideas. And that's why I always say, sleep on it. Give it time. Anytime there's some major decision coming up, don't make any rash decisions, whether it's work related, whether it's buying a house, buying a car, choosing a spouse. Don't do anything rash when the emotions are excited, when you've got something new going on in life. Think about it, give it time and sleep on it. Maya Angelou was an amazing person, and she had lots and lots of amazing quotes. People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I think that's a really important point, and one that I constantly think of when I see specific people in my life. I have a feeling or emotion about them, and I want it to be positive. I want people to have a positive feeling when they see me, when they see me at a meeting, when they come to my operating room. I want people to feel Dr. Kanter is here, and it's going to be a good day. And I want you to think about that as you're, all the fellows that are going out and thinking about how you're treating people on a daily basis. You guys we are mentoring you. We're trying to guide you and coach you and train and motivate, provide knowledge, right? That's what a fellowship is. But you got to remember that you then have to go out and teach. You have to teach your skill, because we're giving you a gift. You have a gift, and gifts are for giving. And it's important for you to pass that along. And that was really important to Dr. Jane about passing on your skills. And I'm gonna finish up with Randy Posh, who was an incredible professor at Carnegie Mellon University, who was tasked by his dean saying, if you could only give one lecture, what would you give it on? And sadly, he developed cancer and ended up being able to give that one lecture. And he gave it on time. He gave it on the importance of time, and how important it is to make sure that you spend your time doing the things that are important to you, saying the key question to keep asking, are you spending your time on the right things? Because at the end, time is really all you have. So to sum things up, as you go on your own leadership journeys, pack the bus, choose the right team, get the right players on the team, get rid of the players that aren't the right player for that team, create your vision, remind people of the why it is you're doing what you're doing, empower them with purpose, take care of each other. These little things matter. Maintain your leadership presence, stay positive, teach others, value others, be kind, be authentic, and value your time. And I value all of your time. And I thank you so much for spending it with me this morning. Greg, Hani, Bob, thank you guys all so much. I really appreciate being able to speak with you.
It was awesome. Thank you, Adam. Absolutely fantastic lecture.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. It's really good.
Thank you. Hey, I don't know if you have a minute for questions or.
Of course.
Yeah, definitely. That was awesome, Adam. Big family, big, beautiful family. Any of the fellows have any questions for Dr. Kanter? I know everybody's going to get going, but we got them here, attentive audience.
No, I have a question, Hanny.
Yeah.
So when can we have Adam come down and have that beer? Because I know I want to hear about this journey. That's what I want to know about, Adam.
The great thing is I'm an hour away.
I know, right? So you're invited. The beer's on me. I'm Jamie Bruffy. I'm one of the older guys in our group. So you're invited down. Beer's on me.
All right.
I want to hear it.
Magic words. I'll be
fascinating
there.
Story. I just am intrigued because it's just so nice and refreshing to hear, that you woke up and said, I gotta change. I don't know if you woke up and said that, but you said something in you made you want to rethink your career, your pathway, your process, your life, right?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It's easy. You get to this point. I'm 15 years in at a institution where I've got my team. I've got everything that I need. I can just get cruise control for the next 15 years and kind of finish things off. But that really wasn't what I was looking for. I wanted something different in life, and I found something completely different and amazing. And we're building, and I'm super excited to be a part of this. And I would be lying if I didn't say I'm really truly enjoying being out here on the West Coast.
All right. Well, I want to hear more about that.
Look forward to it.
We'll work on the invite.
All right.
Well, Adam, you gave a bunch of pearls for I think fellows to keep in mind. If there's sort of one piece of advice or one thing that you want them to keep with them as they start their practices and build their teams, any last words for them before they get headed to the OR?
Yeah, honestly, what it comes down to is being around the right people. And I used to tell this to all of our fellows: is when you're looking at your first job, make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that are going to have your back. You're going to have their back. That you're part of a family. Because doing it alone, I can't imagine having started off without being around some of my best friends. So really, really important to be around those that you care for. And you guys are so lucky in Scripps to have one another. With the exception of Mundus.
Hey, real quick, just a shameless plug for this Bridging the Gap meeting. This lecture is actually what this meeting at the end of the month is really all about. Please reach out if you're interested in this kind of stuff, because it's really about life beyond spine surgery. And especially as you start going into practice, being able to think of your world beyond your trade,
Yeah.
I think is so important. So it's also a great time to golf and have some fun together doing some physical activity. So anyways, I'll shamelessly plug it one more time and tell you thank you, Adam, for your time. Adam's actually going to join the faculty for Bridging the Gap next year. But hopefully we can draw him down for this year as well. So anyways, appreciate you guys. Hanny, if you don't have anything else, I am going to log out. I got another meeting to hop over to, but thanks everybody. Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Adam. Have a great
Thanks,
weekend,
Adam.
everyone.
Take care, everybody. Have a good one.